Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy. Back here again with my co-hosts, Matty B and Jeff. Got a football-packed show for you this week. We got college football started back. Preseason wraps up with that stupid short week that I complained about last week. Every game, I think, is on Thursday. So hopefully when this comes out, you can listen to it right away and you'll be able to get pumped up, ready for the season. But let's get in the high tempo. Matt, you want to kick it off this week?
Yeah, sure. We had our first regular season game this past Friday, and it was not very pretty. Took a heavy beating, but there were some positives that walked out of it. I like the fact that with some of the leadership stuff that we talked about on the show earlier, I was glad to see that it was actually starting to show. I didn't see anyone quit. There was no within the team fighting. There were a lot of little things that we were able to build off of for this week. So we have our first road test this Friday. We're on the road at Williamsburg and hoping to get that first win of the season.
Yeah, I'm hoping you get that first win too. I actually have some numbers to bring up on the show here. I sent them to you guys. I'm loading it up for the people that are watching the video. I have three numbers here, Matt. They're relevant to you as a coach. The first one, 538. That's a percent. Winning percentage, obviously. 520. And 477. Do you have any guesses on who these are?
No.
Well, 538 is you. So even though you took that beating, you still have winning record, great record. But I just want to help motivate you here with that 538 because you're coming pretty close to that 520 line. Any guesses on who that could be?
I don't know.
That's a Brady Hoke for you. So you're getting dangerously close there to having to give away Coke sodas to get people to come to your games. And then 477. Got any guesses for that one?
Is that your boy Harbs?
No, that's your boy Willie Taggart. So you can look on the positives, Matt. You're still better than two great coaches that coach in college football. So rebound, have your guys get a win this week. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Smart ass.
How's that a smart ass? I'm giving you a compliment. I put it up there for the people on the video. For as much as I complain about Brady Hoke, I'm just saying you might have a better winning percentage than him. And at some point, wins matter, Matt. Yeah, a man can only go by his record. I'm pretty sure I heard Jim Harbaugh say that once. So, all right, Jeff, what do you got for high tempo?
My high tempo topic of the week is the Texans. Lamar Miller went down, ACL injury. Right before the season. As far as running backs concerned for the Texans now, looks like Duke Johnson is going to be the starter, the old Cleveland Brown. That really hurts. And then I know you're going to get into it later in the show, but then without Andrew Luck with the Colts, the AFC South, I feel like is a little bit more open now. And getting back to the Texans, Clowney is looking for trades. And apparently he's been talking to the Dolphins. I don't know if that trade is going to happen or not, but that's right before the season. He's a big piece to that front seven of the Texans defense. So it's kind of interesting how much the AFC South is shaking up right before the season starts.
Well, the Clowney move is a big one because they were looking to shop him around. I honestly don't think I'm a big Clowney fan. I loved when he played for Coach Spurrier at USC East, South Carolina. And I just don't think he ever lived up to his hype. You would think by him coming into the league, you can't say that he was doubled every play because J.J. Watt's on the opposite side. He came into a phenomenal situation for a rookie defensive end to have someone of that caliber opposite of you. And I know he's battled some injuries, but he just didn't get it done. Maybe a change of scenery will help as I stumble on my words. But Miami, what was interesting to me is they're actually the person that the Texans were going after is Laramie Tunzel. If you remember, he's a guy that tumbled in the first round because he had the weed smoking video and they had the leaked information about Ole Miss paying him and paying his family's electrical bills or whatever. Like his dad or stepdad took his phone during the NFL draft. So it's interesting that as much of a character issue a lot of the NFL guys talk about, they have no trouble taking a kid like that and trying to get him back for Clowney. So I don't know if that's negative light for Clowney or if they just need offensive line help and they know that they can get a first-round pick back. I don't know. But I honestly don't think that move will happen. I think that the Dolphins aren't interested in trading Tunzel. So I want to see what they're able to get for Clowney. And realistically, I honestly think they can just plug and play a journeyman defensive end and still get the same production. Like, I expected a lot more from Clowney than what I got. Do you have anything to say on that, guys?
Well, I look at the Clowney situation similar to the way I look at Andrew Luck. Like, when you look at how much time they've actually missed versus the amount of time that they've played, they spend more time injured than on the field. So, I mean, if you got anything out of them, it was kind of like an added bonus.
I think the injury thing is a big deal, and we can use that to transition into the Andrew Luck thing. I know we talked about this before. Some guys just seem like they always get hurt. And I feel bad for them because at some point you're out there, that's your job. Imagine if you were like a computer guy and every day you went out there and like had a bad case of carpal tunnel, or you were like some other guy, like you're a driver or even like a forklift driver or something where you needed your vision, and boom, every day you had like blurry vision. Like, it just seems like some of these guys are snake bitten. They have a game because at the end of the day, it is just a game. It's football. People watch it to have fun. The fact that he retired for his own health, I always wanted Barry Sanders to come back as a kid. So I know how that feels. Like, you know, okay, that guy was great. I really wish I could watch him again. And I know, Matt, we always wondered, like, could he ever come to the Steelers? Is that a possibility? I mean, hell, Barry Sanders' Jerome Bettis punch would have been unbelievable. I don't know how the contracts worked out. It never happened. He never came back. And Andrew Luck, people are already speculating that he's going to come back. I don't think he will, because I don't think it's the scheme. I don't think it's the team. I think when a guy gets injured all the time, that's just it. Some guys aren't built to take the hits. And maybe it will translate into him being a great coach because he has a great mind for the game. That's always been one of his strengths. I don't know. I was disappointed that the fans would boo him because it's not like he's retiring or like going to the opposite team. Like, I understand when Brett Favre went to the Vikings, boo him. Boo the hell out of him. He's still playing the game. That's a fan thing. But a guy gets hurt every year. Like, cut the guy some slack. Like, I understand. Are you going to boo Peyton Manning because he went to the Broncos and won a couple Super Bowls, or won one Super Bowl? How many more did he win? One? I know he got killed that one. So he wins another Super Bowl. He comes back. I guarantee you they're not going to boo Peyton Manning. Why boo Andrew Luck? It makes zero sense to me. Let's go around the horn. Jeff, what are your thoughts on that?
My first initial thought, like many others, I was shocked, especially right before the season like that. I didn't foresee that happening. But it makes sense when we talk about his injuries the last couple of years. Constantly beat up. Wasn't like, you know, he said he lost his fun, like his the fun for the game. Like, he lost his enjoyment of it. And at that point, he is a 4-time Pro Bowler. He did pretty well in the NFL. And a guy coming out of Stanford, highly intelligent, doesn't necessarily need the money. His dad running the XFL. His family has money. It's one of those things where, as a fan, I'm disappointed. I always thought Andrew Luck would lead the Colts to a Super Bowl. I think I've even said it on this show. So as a fan, I'm disappointed, but there's no way they should have booed. Everything he's done, he's been a class act. Everyone in the NFL likes him. It's a weird situation this close to the season. Now the Colts don't have a shot going into this season. I thought they might have a shot in the AFC South this year, but now without Andrew Luck, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know how fans can be mad at him, but also he's taken a beating. I don't think, you mentioned his dad with the XFL. I don't think there's any chance of him going to the XFL. Some people were starting that rumor.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense.
Maybe as a coach or like a front office type person.
Yeah, I could see that where he comes back as a coach for them, but there's no way he's going to go play in the XFL as their star quarterback. That would just be ridiculous. That would be the biggest coup of all time. Like, I don't know anything bigger. People always talk about Herschel Walker signing with the old league, USFL or whatever it is. Andrew Luck retiring to go play the XFL is so mind-boggling that it would break a lot of people, a lot of football people. I just don't know. Matt, as a coach, what are your feelings on it?
Well, I thought my initial reaction was, why is everyone getting so worked up? Like, how many seasons was he injured? I felt like he may have had one decent season over the last 4 or 5 years that I can remember. I mean, I feel like he spent more time injured or not really playing that well that it didn't bother me at all. It was like, good, because you've been injured so often that you don't want it to be where he becomes another CTE question mark or, whatever, like injuring himself permanently with some of these things. But then I also started thinking about it from an organizational standpoint. And with all the injuries that he's had, it almost reminds me in a different aspect to David Carr with the Houston Texans, where you're rebuilding an organization, and the Colts drafted Luck to turn the franchise around. The Texans drafted Derek Carr. And when you start with the quarterback first and you have absolutely no offensive line around him, you're not setting yourself up for success. You're setting yourself up to spend a lot of money for a guy that is going to end up injured. And so you look at Andrew Luck, who made, $90 million over the course of his contract, that now you're dealing with the majority of that money that they paid him was him rehabbing for these various injuries. So I think it just shows when you build your franchise up, similar to what the Steelers do. Keep the offensive line built up, the defensive line built up, and then you add those other pieces as they become available. And you not only protect those players up front, but you also protect the quarterbacks when it's time to pick the next one up.
I agree 100%. That's exactly what the Patriots do. I mean, everyone always talks about them drafting Tom Brady in the 6th round. There's a reason they had that luxury, because they had Drew Bledsoe. They had a team that they built up first, and they got to that high level, and then you're able to pick your successor at quarterback because you're not in that win now or rebuild now mode. I mean, they had Peyton Manning for all those years. You would think that they would have had a younger backup quarterback in waiting, similarly to what the Patriots have over time. How many guys have they had at backup for Tom Brady that Tom Brady gets hurt, they perform well, and then they go sign with another team? I mean, you have Garoppolo. He's with the 49ers right now. So you have a system in place. Not a lot of teams keep that. The Steelers have been trying it with Ben. They get a quarterback, it seems like, every year. And then every year they give them shots in preseason, and when Ben inevitably gets hurt. He gets hurt, they bring the next guy in, see how they perform, and then they let him go. See what happens. I mean, it's crazy. I don't know what exactly the issue was with Andrew Luck always getting hurt. Is it just bad genetics? At some point, it probably is. But for people that were complaining about the fantasy football aspect of it, if you drafted Andrew Luck, like Matt said, he's been hurt all the time. If you drafted him high, that's on you, buddy. Like, learn how to do some fantasy football research.
Well, I feel bad because O.J. Simpson's probably going to kill him now because the team drafted.
Juice is loose again.
Oh, dude, that's so funny. Speaking of feuds, we have Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown. And, of course, when you're watching the game, the Steelers have been playing phenomenal. And it looks like they're a looser bunch. They go ahead to Tennessee, undefeated in the preseason, and I know that preseason means nothing. But Ben came out and he was firing darts on the field. I have no issues with him right now and how he's playing. A lot of people, like I said, wanted him to play earlier in the preseason. I didn't think he had to play at all. And I think he proved it last week, or yesterday or Sunday. When was that game? Sunday night. And threw a touchdown to Juju. He looked great. The receivers look unbelievable. Washington, I saw he has at least one 40-plus yard reception in every preseason game this year. He's able to get behind the defense And his connection with Rudolph is unbelievable. So if Ben goes down, I really like, and I've always liked that pick. You pick Rudolph because you picked his receiver, and you know that they're going to at least have some type of accountability with each other to A, work out and keep each other honest, because I would have assumed they talked to Mike Gundy and knew what kind of character they were getting from these guys, and it's paid off. It's working. He's able to fill right in, and I don't feel any remorse to the Antonio Brown thing. So just some more background before I let you guys go for people at home. Ben called out Antonio Brown last year. Everyone knew it. Antonio Brown threw a fit, and that supposedly started the riff. Well, of course, the media keeps bringing it up, and Ben he's asked about it at the game or before the after. I don't even know when it was. But he said he regretted calling him out because it caused issues with the locker room. And then he said, but hold on, I also called out James Washington. And look how he's responded. He texted me after and said that he appreciated it because it made him motivated to work harder and things like that. That's kind of a paraphrase. You can look up the exact quote if you want. But basically, Ben spun it in a way that he was, I guess, pointing out Antonio Brown's character issues again. And then also complimenting James Washington. And, of course, people around the NFL exploded. Their minds exploded because they only see the superstars. They see Brown putting up all these numbers, and they're giving no credit to Ben. So now that he's with the Raiders, I really want to see how he does. Because there's zero reason for them to keep talking about Brown, especially if the Raiders have another piss poor season where they go, 4-12 again? So let's see what happens. We'll go around. Matt, we'll kick it off with you. Any thoughts on the feud between Ben and Brown or how the Steelers played on Sunday?
It's been kind of documented that Roethlisberger, with him spending as much time as he has in the league, that he understands how to use the media to get messages across, similar to the way that the head coaches do, where if they want to address certain players or certain situations, there's ways that you can spin it with the media and be able to get those thoughts out and maybe hit that person or that situation where it needs to be. And I think he called him out, and you saw exactly all the issues that we thought and what we saw happen. So I'm not surprised that it's turned into this big thing, because everyone wants to downplay how much of a psycho right now he's being. And I think if it were just about anybody else, that they would not be putting up with this crap. It would be run him out. But because Brown has had success in Pittsburgh, he's kind of getting somewhat of a pass. But I'm curious to just see how he's going to play, because I don't know that Oakland's system fits his style of play. And until I see him performing in it, I'm going to be skeptical.
Hell, I don't even think Oakland's system fits any receiver. Did you see how Cooper did whenever he went to Dallas? As soon as he got out of there, he broke out. So you're taking a guy that, and this is what gets me. We always talk about how the NFL, they seem to take care of their own. They always had a problem with Terrell Owens. And Terrell Owens is a hell of a receiver. And I would say basically him and Brown they both are in the same type of trajectory where they both had hell of a couple seasons where they had great stats. And then T.O. leaves San Francisco. Antonio Brown leaves Pittsburgh. And now, T.O., he got destroyed in the media. He basically led the Eagles to that Super Bowl, had a broken foot or ankle, whatever the issue was. He played through it in the game and put up a hell of a stat line. And media still hated him for it. Around the NFL, he was blackballed. But Antonio Brown can get into issues at his apartment. He can get into issues on the field, off the field. Everyone still gives him the benefit of the doubt. And I don't understand it. Growing up, man, I love Terrell Owens. I always thought he got a bad rap. And then seeing how they just keep pumping up Antonio Brown, it drives me nuts. Because Terrell Owens, he worked out, stayed in shape. He wasn't getting in these off-the-field shenanigans. He just wasn't. You would think that the NFL would want that image that, hey, we got to take care of guys that are not getting in trouble with the law, not doing all this other off-the-field stuff. But then when they have a guy like Brown, it's almost like they're going in the opposite direction. Like, oh, well, this one guy's talent is too much. We have to bend the rules a little bit for him. Let's let him do a weird helmet thing. Let's let him do this other thing. And then at the end of the day, he just doesn't have respect for the NFL. I just don't understand why he would. But Jeff, let's get your thoughts on the Steelers.
Yeah, so my initial thoughts, it's so nice, I keep saying this, is refreshing this year not to have the media circus. And one thing I think that's really helping the Steelers this year is like all the young players. You can just tell there's like a different attitude, there's enthusiasm, they look inspired. And that's one thing I feel like the last couple of years, the Steelers weren't playing as a team. They had Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, disrupting the locker room. Going into this season, I know the season hasn't started, but the pieces are in place, and I like the attitude, and they're playing as a team. And I know it's only the preseason, but I like what they're doing this season compared to previous years. Now, one thing I think it's important to note is like Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, some people, years ago might have said he was acting childish and whatnot, and like not like necessarily his social media status. But he's doing a very good job of spinning it towards a team mentality. He's not doing it as an individual. He's incorporating the team, and I think it's building camaraderie in the locker room, which is, it's kind of unique to see today with social media and some of the way athletes portray themselves. He's portraying himself as a team player, and he's doing everything he can for the team. Now, with Antonio Brown, I like your comparison to T.O. He's on the same trajectory as T.O. was back in the day. And I don't know if like with the star players today, it seems like the NFL is overcompensating for Antonio Brown. And back in the day, they just shunned T.O. They didn't want any of his nonsense. They shunned him. The media destroyed him. Nowadays, it's like the NFL is overprotecting and overcompensating for Antonio Brown, which is kind of a unique circumstance.
Yeah, I've thought about it, and I think their careers line up pretty close. T.O. came into the league. Now, of course, he had Jerry Rice to learn under, but he was on 49er teams that didn't get it done, that they were highly rated in the offseason because of their weapons on offense and their quarterback that get to the playoffs and they would lose. Hell, T.O. had a great catch against, I think it was Green Bay the one year, and Brett Favre in the end zone to get them into the championship game, but they never made it to the Super Bowl. Steelers with Antonio Brown, the same exact thing. Highly touted. Oh, look at all these offensive weapons they've got. They're going to put up points. They're going to be a Super Bowl contender. They get to the playoffs, they flame out. So now that he's gone to another team, T.O. I think he initially went to Dallas, maybe? And he bounced around after that. I want to say I wouldn't be surprised if Antonio Brown followed the same thing, where he's not exactly blackballed by these teams because for whatever reason, they're just looking purely at talent and numbers now, where before, what is it, 2 decades ago now when T.O. was playing, they had all these other issues with him that they were always nitpicking and trying to find a reason not to have him on the team. Antonio Brown's locker room behavior is way worse than anything T.O. did. Hell, T.O.'s known for celebrating touchdowns, not throwing stuff on the sideline and things like that. It's a different world that a lot of people, I bet if we had social media back in the day, everyone would have been on T.O.'s side because all the media would have been wanting to share his social media stuff and they would have been worried that they were going to get blocked or something.
Yep.
I think that's honestly what it comes down to. So as I was putting up that comparison for the show, I tried to look at it and it just lined up. And I love T.O. and I really wish he would have won a Super Bowl. Antonio Brown, he could redeem himself. Who knows? Let's see what happens. But if the Raiders don't win, he's going to be looking to get out of there.
Yeah.
So
just to add to your point, Richie, when you consider T.O. back in the day for like sponsorships and stuff like that, he wasn't marketable with how the NFL shunned him, how the media killed him. That's a huge difference right now. With marketing, they want stars. They don't care necessarily about your off-the-field personality and issues. They care about stats and what they can sell to the kids today. You can sell Antonio Brown with his stats, and they just try to, diminish his off-the-field issues. But T.O. back in the day, you couldn't market him just because of how bad the media portrayed him.
And it wasn't even that. They would have loved to have T.O. on like television shows doing like The Masked Singer. They would have 100% did that. But the NFL shunned him for doing television and other things like that because he did that reality show with Ocho Cinco. Oh, and they even had like their own sports thing that they did for a while. But at that point, they were like, no. The NFL is not a me league. You have to toe the company line. And then recently, they're like, no. So, and I honestly think social media is the reason. Yeah. Because the NFL sits back and they're like, holy cow, we just put out a tweet of a highlight of some game, and we probably only got 1,000 likes on it. But then here's Antonio Brown, or hell, David Johnson jumping out of a swimming pool. He's getting millions of likes on it. We got to keep marketing these guys because they're the guys now. I mean, whatever the NFL puts out or the teams put out, it pales in comparison to what the actual players do because people know they can go right to them. It's a different game. So I'm surprised they didn't bring T.O. back. And he honestly should be out there. I don't know if he works in the league or even if he wants to, but he should be one of the ones at player orientation talking about media perception and training some of these guys because he was one of the best at it. So anything else you guys got for the NFL? We'll go around one more time. Matt, you got anything?
No.
I know we hit it pretty big with Andrew Luck and then the Steelers. Yeah. Steelers are doing so good. We have one more preseason game, like I said earlier. Every game is on Thursday, which I absolutely hate, but hell, at least they got college football and Labor Day weekend with all games all the way to Monday. So we'll have that to hold off. Jeff, do you got anything else on the NFL?
Just one final thing. It was adding to points Matt made with Andrew Luck. One of the big differences between Luck and David Carr, their situations, the teams did not build around them to allow them to have success. Andrew Luck was such a difference maker. He had success without a team. He took them to multiple playoff runs, won four. He was a Pro Bowler 4 times, won playoff games. He did a lot of that by himself. He didn't have a running game, didn't have an offensive line, and had a subpar defense for most of his career. So hats off to Andrew Luck. It was a great career. I enjoyed watching you, and hopefully, you enjoy your life after the NFL.
I think he'll get into coaching, and that's not based on anything. Hell, he might not. He might even just get right into administration and be a GM or like John Elway. I don't think he's actually the GM, is he? No, because they hired John Lynch, didn't they? Or no, the 49ers hired John Lynch. So he could do something like that just because his dad was the AD at West Virginia. Now he was like an NCAA guy, and now he's heading the AAF. So he definitely has ties, and Andrew Luck has the pedigree. He went to Stanford. So he could be
XFL, not AAF. AAF's dead.
Oh, yeah, you're right. AAF's dead, so his dad's in the XFL. I don't even know why. I like the XFL more. I should have easily made that such a rookie mistake. But I think that's where we'll find out where he goes. I would be shocked if he came back. I thought he should have retired before. I don't know how anyone could wake up after taking beatings and just say, you know what, I want to keep doing this. Like it would be like every year they're going to say, hey, guys, I'm going to give you a check for $1 million, but you're going to be in a car wreck, and then you're going to have to rehab. Like you're like a human crash test dummy. They give you your $1 million, and then you spend the rest of the year rehabbing. It's almost like what he was doing. So feel bad for him. The other guy, my last thought, Gronkowski came out and he said the same thing. He came out and said that he couldn't take football anymore. After the last Super Bowl that they won, he said that he had such a deep thigh bruise, I believe it was, that it was internally bleeding, and he just laid in bed crying. Unbelievable. And I kept saying, like, they were targeting his legs. You could just see it. The NFL was okay with it. So they were complicit in that. And look, now you lost one of your guys. I think they were both the same age, 29 when they stepped away. I could be wrong. So you're going to see a lot more turnover. I don't think it's going to kill the game right now. I know a lot of people are going that way. I just don't think when you have young kids still that need a way out and a way to make money to support their family, this is still an easy way. Not everyone can go to basketball because of the height requirement. If you're 5'10", you can be fast as hell. You have a much better chance of getting in the NFL than you do, especially with the expanded rosters, than you do to get in the NBA. That's a fact. Now, if you're 6'7", yeah, you might have options. But for most kids, for that reason, I don't think the NFL is going to go anywhere. I think I had one more NFL thing. Of course, NFL signs a sponsorship deal, and now they're going to allow players to wear visors. So,
Oakley.
Was it Oakley? I thought it was Oakley. Coach, what are your thoughts on that? Why would they need visors, and why would they only allow one brand?
Well, because they're the brand that pays is the short answer. But I hate visors. It's on my list of pet peeves because they fog up quick, and then it's constantly taking them on and putting them off and wasting time. How about just don't wear a visor? Unless it's for, I can understand having one if you're someone that has, like, you're concerned with concussions, like you've had a concussion previously, and you're getting it as a preventative type thing. I can kind of see that. It's like the lights and whatever. Okay, whatever. What if there's some kind of medical reason that you'd wear it? Fine. But for most people, it becomes a thing of it's about me, and like trying to make yourself stand out differently as opposed to just being part of the team. I don't like that part of it.
Yeah, I figured you would, but you're missing a key factor that you didn't mention. They look really, really cool. So if you do wear one, if you're a high school kid listening, it definitely ups your cool factor. If you want to be the big man on campus, wear that visor.
Wear the Under Armour like bands and bracelets and
definitely, yeah.
The towels.
Look good, feel good, play good.
Yeah, you got to look cool out there. I mean, that's the whole reason you're playing football, right? Jeff, why are you laughing?
Because 90% of the people that do that are horrible. They're not even good. It's always, you look for the one that has all the wristbands and whatever, and then you just hit them right in the face because you know that they're not going to be aggressively hitting anyone.
So what do really good players look like, Matt? No visor? No shirt on at all?
Yes. No, just like Joey Porter. Walking out, just hitting people.
I figured you'd say that.
However, look good, feel good. That's my boy Deion Sanders. So when you do that kind of stuff, you better be good enough to back it up.
Yeah.
And he's in that very small percentage of people that could back it up. So if you're going to do it, you better be ready for the extra heat.
Yes,
and most kids don't handle that kind of pressure well. So don't put the extra pressure on yourself to begin with. Just be part of your team.
Well, good thing you brought up Deion Sanders because that's a great example of being cool. He came up with a whole nickname. So wear the visor, come up with a nickname for yourself like Prime Time, and walk the walk. I think that's what you're saying, Coach, right?
If you can. There's too many people. The issue that we have is there's too many people that think they're Prime Time and they're joke time. They're not even anything. They're terrible. So I would much rather just be humble and just handle your business.
So you're saying no names on the jerseys, just like Penn State, right?
Absolutely. Don't even give them a face mask.
The single bar is my favorite face mask because if you needed to clean dirt out of your eyes, you can easily do it, and it looks cool.
True story. I did try to ask for a single bar face mask, and I was executively vetoed by my head coach. He said, no, they're going to reach in and punch you in the face. Wear a normal helmet.
What year did you ask for that, 1975?
No, not 1975. They would have issued me a single bar face mask back then. And I said, no, here, take this helmet with no padding in it.
Well, that's what's crazy now is almost they keep doing these CTE scans on helmets, and the helmets almost look identical. So like the fact that one might be slightly different, it's crazy. I don't know why players wouldn't want to put on. If the visor helps, I think they're actually doing tests on that to see if it helps with concussions because of, they said something with the blue light filter. I know you always see that marketing talk when you're dealing with computers. So they're saying that if you filter out the blue light, it might help with your eyes or something. And they're doing tests to see if it helps limit concussions. Which wouldn't that just be such a surprise, Matt, if someone pays to get all these helmets outfitted with visors only to find out that they also paid for a survey or a research study to get it known that that also helps with concussions. That's my conspiracy.
It would be a little bit ironic.
So I'm going to keep an eye on that because I'm going to wait and see. We'll see if the visors, if anyone wears them, and I got to look for that data because I know that they're looking to see if that comes across. But we'll get off a little bit of a break on the football talk here and get into the mailbag. We had a big question come across for fantasy football. So we'll see what you guys think on this one. What do you do if someone quits your fantasy football league right before the draft? We'll start with you, Jeff.
Oh, man, that's rough. Because a lot of the teams and stuff and like a lot of the leagues, they've already been set up for the last month. So if someone quits your fantasy football league right before the start of it, you're in trouble. You better be texting all your friends for a substitute. And it's kind of hard because I know me personally, I'm in 4 leagues this year. I'm not taking on an additional league. No way.
That makes sense bachelor like being in 4 fantasy football.
Yeah.
I know, Jeffrey.
I got some extra time on my hands, you know.
How many were you in last year?
Oh, 5. 5 last year. I dialed it down a little bit this year.
How many did you win?
0.
When's the last championship you won?
Couple years ago. It's been a while, and I will say I played in less leagues then, so maybe I need to focus more on just one league. But I was in our fantasy football league. I did make 2 championships that I lost. I think I lost to you in one of them.
I'm a winner. I'm Top Gun. So of course, if you play me, you're going to lose, especially in a championship. I'm undefeated in those, baby.
Yeah. I think the one Matt won, I lost to him in the semi. So. Guess you guys got the upper hand on me.
So what you're saying is you are the Jim Harbaugh of this bunch.
Yeah. I win a lot in the regular season, and when it comes time to winning the big game, I choke.
Well, I will say that's another one of my tips, and I think I talked about it last year. Don't overextend yourself, because what will happen is if you're in so many leagues, you'll start to have the same players on all of your teams, or a couple players, and then you'll start to second guess your lineups. You're almost better just to mask your players' names and look purely at stats at that point. Because you're going to start to let emotions get in the way. Because you'll say, oh, so-and-so third bench player that I picked up in free agency in league number 1, he got me 10 points this week and gave me a win. I'm going to pick him up on my other 3 teams. And then the next week he gets you 0 points and you lose all 4. Too many leagues let you go crazy. You got to start thinking of it, man. Sit back and say, all right, number 1, how much can I dedicate time? And I actually don't mind if you're playing in multiple leagues with different rules. I know some people do like only half NFC or AFC. I know ours is an auction draft, so it's a little bit different. So I know a lot of people play in 2 leagues. They play like one with their family, and then like ours is like the Southbound Sports one or whatever. So you got a big one. Do whatever you got to do. But I will say 4 teams, when you're not winning, that can be rough, man.
Yeah, one thing I will say, you made an interesting point for people in multiple leagues. Last year when I was drafting, I had my 1 or 2 teams, my favorite players I was drafting, and then I got into a situation. Then I'm like, well, I can't have the same guy in 4 different leagues, so I was extending. You know what I mean? Like honestly, I was making picks that I wouldn't necessarily make. Like you were mentioning, I was just going off stats, and next thing you know, it's like I'm second guessing my drafts, and I got 5 teams that I'm not necessarily hype on. And it led to 0-5 on the old championship scale. So I will say, don't ever extend yourself, and don't start second guessing yourself when you're drafting. Go with your gut, go with your players you like, and then go from there.
Yeah, never pick guys that you like. Never. I don't care if you love Tom Brady. Sometimes you just have to not pick him, because first off, jerks in the league will bid him up. And then number two, if he gets hurt or something, then you're just going to be mad at your favorite guy. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Well, I should have rephrased that. I don't necessarily pick my favorite players. I have players that I like to watch on TV, and then I have my favorite fantasy players.
Yeah, I know.
Based on what they did. You know what I mean? It's a little
like
different.
Saquon Barkley, you're a huge fan of his and Penn State as a whole, right?
Yeah, I love Penn State. I'm a huge Penn State fan. But I will say this, as far as Barkley and fantasy football, I can get on board with that. Is Penn State in real life? Not so much.
I believe you said that you would buy a Barkley jersey, and you didn't specify if it was a Penn State jersey or not. You're that big of a fan, right?
I'll go on record. If Barkley brings me the Bash Brother Championship this year, I will buy a Barkley jersey, and we'll put it in a vote in the league, whether it's a Giants jersey or a Penn State jersey. We'll put it to a vote.
It will be a Penn State jersey.
Yeah, well, I'll wear that jersey with disgrace and disgust.
Matt, what are your thoughts on this whole thing?
Well, I think you just move on. Just find someone else to either replace. And there's no point in wasting time if you don't want to be in it, because it's not a multi-million-dollar fantasy league. So just move on. Let it. It's not worth time for people that don't want to be in.
Yeah, I'd say you're breaking up a little bit there, but I think your point came across. Yeah, at some point you got to move on. If you're the commissioner and they don't want to be in, don't force them to be in. I found that the best. Now, normally our league's pretty popular. We get a lot of interest just because of everyone talking about it all the time, and it's not just like one group of friends. It actually extends. I think what we have, 16 people last year, so it's fairly large. That's why I always laugh at like Matt Barry. He'll say, hey, you should pick up this guy. He's been gone for 30 weeks. He's never available. Like you have to scrounge down and find like a third running back that's maybe getting a couple points here and there, because you're never going to get, it cracks me up whenever they're like, hey, yeah, you should see like this great quarterback, Mitch Trubisky. He was my quarterback one. I'm like, what the hell? How am I going to pick him up off waivers if he's my guy? I have to roll with him. Because that was like about week 5. They're like, everyone should pick him up off waivers. I'm like, in what league is he available? It just doesn't make sense. None of their guys help out. But I will say, most of the leagues you are in with friends, so I would hope that if someone quits, they would at least be, have enough integrity to give a little bit of a heads up. Because you just don't quit for no reason right before the draft. I mean, that's just facts, as it is. You're either going to know that you're going to quit and just be a man and just say, hey, I'm not in this year. Don't wait until last minute, because that doesn't help anyone. It just makes you look like an ass. So that's my final thoughts on that. You guys ready to get into college football? Because I know, Matt, this is going to be your number one topic of the week. The Florida Gators. Florida champions. What do you think of that game?
Well, I will say that I was surprised that – actually, I'm not surprised. It drew higher ratings than the NBA playoffs. And for as much as they say NBA is trying to compete with football rankings, it's not even close. They drew massive ratings over the weekend, and it wasn't even a good game. It was two puddle jumpers playing. It was horrid. You had Franks that was like acting like he was Superman, and then completely just throwing a pick right to Miami. Like, not even a couple minutes later.
That was like 3 minutes left in the game. For people that didn't watch it, Florida had to just run the ball out. They could have sold the game away. He throws an interception to Miami like on their own 20, 30-yard line. It was like ridiculous.
Directly to him. It wasn't like, oh, this could have been it was like completely to him.
That was one of the worst passes I've ever seen. It was into triple coverage, directly into a Miami's player's arms.
And as a player, you're coached up that, hey, we have the lead, it's late. If he's covered, throw the ball away or just scramble and slide inbounds. Because that way the clock keeps moving. That's the number one thing you should do. It drove me nuts watching Miami's quarterback. I know he's young. Just not throw the ball away. Why would you scramble and waste 15 more seconds off the clock just to run out of bounds for a -3 loss? If you throw the ball away, the ball goes back to the line of scrimmage. If you don't think you can get to the line of scrimmage, Don't just casually jog out of bounds for a 5-yard loss. And then for Miami, the play calling was horrid. And their offensive coordinator, Dan Enos, he almost coached at Michigan. So he threw
his quarterback right under the bus today. Did you see that?
Yeah, I'm glad he's not at Michigan. So the people that don't know the backstory of him, he worked at Arkansas, and supposedly he had a no clause or no trade clause or whatever, no talk clause with SEC schools. So in January, I want to say this was 2 years ago, he comes on and is announced as one of the new passing game coordinators for the University of Michigan. A couple days later, once he signed that contract, he ends up at Alabama. People leaked out, the rumors were that he only signed that contract to get around the SEC to SEC clause. So he waited just enough time so that he could take the Alabama job. Of course, did it work out? Hell no. Because if he was anyway decent at Alabama, calling plays, he would have been hired just like their offensive coordinator is now the head coach of Maryland. So what happens instead? He ends up in Miami. I didn't even know. I forgot all about that guy. So he ends up in Miami, calls a putrid game. I mean, what the hell? I'm watching the end of the game. All you need to do is give your guy a shot. But instead, he's calling play action passes and deep drops where his guy gets sacked, 5 times in a row?
Yeah, I think they had 8 total sacks in the game.
And it was all at the end of the game.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it ended on 3 straight sacks. What kind of OC are you? And then to throw your quarterback under the bus? Hey, buddy, how about you throw a quick slant? If they're blitzing the house, throw a quick slant. Do something. Help the guy out. Good God. Run some motion. Get him out of the backfield. But then to throw him under the bus, I just laughed because it was like Miami being Miami. They could have beat Florida, an overrated top 10 team from what I saw because they were very sloppy. And hell, they could get better. I don't know. We'll see. It's still early. Miami could have jumped up into the rankings. They both would have been ranked around 15. I think I said that during the game. This doesn't look like 2 top 10 teams, but it would have been enough of a boost to the ACC that if Miami would have won that game, and even if they would have finished 10-2 in the ACC and won the Coastal, that's a good look for a Clemson team to beat in the ACC championship game. But now you're looking at that game and you're like, if Miami comes out of the Coastal, I don't know how good of a look that's going to be. I'm not confident of them winning it. I think what's going to happen is Pitt is it. Pitt's going to go back-to-back Coastal champs, and they're going to get it done because with that poor Miami coaching, I can only see them going downhill from there. You can't have a heartbreaking loss with a new coach and then throw your quarterback under the bus and expect to keep the locker room.
Well, here's another idea. How about instead of buying another turnover chain and touchdown rings, how about you just buy the rest of your indoor practice facility and don't just have it as the size of a bounce house? Like a normal school.
I just don't even know what they could do because you need to recruit. Miami's they still have an advantage no matter what people say. If you watch the U documentary 30 for 30 on ESPN, they talked about how Snellenberger would go into the Miami basically district and areas where scouts would not go. And he would find guys that other coaches would be scared to talk to. And he would pull them in, and they wouldn't be ranked high on recruiting sites because, hell, no one's scouting these guys. Because scouting game is a money game. You have to be able to afford to go to camps. And I still think Miami has that built-in advantage. They have a big enough name where they can kind of pull guys around. I don't want to say nationally. They're not going to pull like a Notre Dame or a Michigan or an Alabama. They're just not. But they're going to be able to pull regionally and get some of the best guys from North Carolina, some of the guys from Virginia, and then get those homegrown guys that are under the radar, and they can have a hell of a talented team. So even though the recruiting rankings aren't high on them, I'm still giving them a little bit of a bump because it looked like their athletes were every bit as good as Florida's, and everyone says how Florida's highly talented, how they've almost had these top 10 classes. Maybe it's just a thing. Maybe their guys aren't scouted at Miami, but it came down to coaching for me.
Yeah.
Coaching could have won that game, and they blew it. How many times were you going to be in the red zone to settle for a field goal? Hell, they missed one. If he makes that, those 3 sacks at the end of the game takes them out of field goal range. They could have just won with a field goal, I think. But, of course, bad play calling. You do the fake. Was it a fake field goal where they got the first down, and then you didn't even capitalize? I think that was a drive that they end up missing the other field goal.
Yeah.
So, all of that, just crazy. I don't know what to think going in. If that's a team, if they run the table and win the Coastal, maybe I'll change my mind, but I just don't see that happening. I think right now, I think the Virginia pick that we talked about last week is going to be the sexy pick in the Coastal. I think they're going to be the best all-around team. Did you guys watch the other game, Hawaii? Because I'll say this. I don't think Rich Rod would have lost that game.
Rich Rod might not have. But I did not watch that game because what time was it on? 2 in the morning?
I fell asleep, so I missed the ending. And I want to say it was 1 in the morning, and it was like third quarter when I fell asleep. And I tried to watch it, but come on. Pac-12 in Hawaii. I know you're in Hawaii. Guys, it's opening weekend for football. Put the game on earlier. I know Florida and Miami, that game was close. It was not supposed to be close. You could have very easily waited till they started at 8 and started your Pac-12 game at 9:30. That way, it would have finished around midnight, 12:30, instead of 2 a.m. More people would have got to watch it, but instead you waited till the Florida game was over, and it was on a competing channel. It was on CBS. The Florida game was on ESPN, like you guys said, with the ratings through the roof, beat basketball ratings on cable network. CBS Sports, they could have ran that game almost at the same time. Why wait to start it till like 10 or 10:30 whenever they started that game? It made zero sense. Do you want to promote the Pac-12? I know the Pac-12 is losing money and they're having trouble with their television network. Maybe that's why. And this is a callback to a couple episodes ago because we had talked about this for the morning games. Pac-12 has decided they're not doing the 9 a.m. games. And I had said, why don't you just work it out so that instead of it starting at noon, you just start at 1:30 so that it would be a 10:30 start on the West Coast. And then that way you have staggered games so that they never end. You're already on a different network. What the hell's the difference? You can call those shots, but they're not innovative. And I think whenever they don't do that, you're just going to hurt your own product. I want to watch football. Hell, I would have watched both whole games if you let me watch them.
Yeah.
I tried to watch it. I fell asleep. At some point, man, you just become exhausted when you're old. I'm not even that old, so I can only imagine how many people didn't even attempt to watch that game.
Yeah.
It was a great game, too. Arizona, Kevin Sumlin, man, I don't know how to feel on him, but Tate, their quarterback, I think it was like 10 seconds left in the game or something. He dropped back and tried to run a quarterback draw for a 40-yard touchdown. And he got stopped
almost got in.
At the 1-yard line. And I honestly think the person that made the tackle was a defensive end that chased him down from the entire opposite side of the field. So if you're a kid that plays football and you think, oh, well, he's one of the most fastest guys, most dynamic guys in college football, I'll never catch him, I'm just going to stand and watch this play, he would have scored and you would have lost. But instead, that guy said, oh, shit, I gotta try to get down there. He didn't take a bad angle. He ran directly up through the hash mark like he was running towards the end zone, just trying to beat him down. Tate was forced back inside the field. He ran right into him at the 1-yard line. It was almost like a perfect play by that defensive end. He thought, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to stay in my lane. You hear about it in kickoffs all the time. I'm not going to try to chase him because he will just outrun me. I'm going to stay in my lane, and if he cuts back, I'll get him. And that's exactly what happened. So kudos to that guy. I don't know what his name was. I couldn't find out because, of course, everyone was just in hysterics about the tackle, and they kept talking about how it was close to that Super Bowl where Kevin Dyson stretched out against the Rams. And how about you give the guy a shout-out because there's a guy that plays for Hawaii. Let me know his name. I should have looked it up, but so I'm giving myself some trash talk there. Look up the names, gives the guy some credit, but that was a hell of a play by him. Anything else you guys want to hit on those first games? Jeff, do you have anything?
just want to, hit on the Florida-Miami game. That was one of the sloppiest, undisciplined games I've ever watched. From a coaching perspective, Matt, it had to kill you. You practice all summer, you go through camp, first game of the year, fall starts, delay of games. Delay of games kill you as an offense. And Miami could not snap the ball within the 25-second clock. You practice that all summer. You have a play clock on your sidelines. Especially Division I football, you have a play clock there. You practice it all the time. Like, that is on coaching. As a head coach, you have to be kicking yourself because, number one, it shows you didn't do a good job preparing for the game. Two, your players are undisciplined. That's why I feel a lot better in the ACC now for Pitt after watching Miami. They're a young team. They're talented. And like Richie, as you said, they had athletes. When you compare Florida and Miami there, athlete to athlete, it is very, very close. It's very similar. I'm not sure what the recruiting status would say between the two teams, but on the field, the athletes were very comparable. But both teams were young, undisciplined, and not very well coached. That was my takeaway from the first game. I didn't even watch the second game because you're right. It started at 10 p.m. As an East Coast fan, and I know it's I'm definitely biased, but the first game started at 7:30. So in California, that would have been starting at 4:30. Can't you bump that up to 7? Bump it up a half hour. Makes such a difference. You bump that up to 7. You start the second game at 9:30. Maybe you at least watch the first half. I didn't even tune in for it because I'm like, it's starting too late. And then the Pac-12, they don't get any representation because people aren't watching those late games. So they need to do something as far as that's concerned. I'm not sure what the right answer is, but they need to do something.
Hey, as much as I talk about ESPN and complain about them, I got to give them credit. I got to go against you here because they picked the time slot because they had the biggest game. They paid for the biggest game. They could have started that game at 8 for all I care because that's the normal start time for the big Saturday night game. Don't push it up for CBS to help out the Pac-12. Hell, that's CBS's job. They needed to push their game up even if the other one's going on because you have to hedge your bet and say, okay, if Florida ends up blowing them out like they're supposed to do, you're going to get people that flip that game over and tune into the Arizona-Hawaii game. They see that it's neck and neck and it's back and forth, even though Hawaii had a hell of a ton of turnovers. You're going to stick and maybe watch that game. Yeah. And if it finishes around midnight, people will stay up for that. I would say even if people go to bed earlier, if it's a good game, people would stay up. Once you get past midnight, especially if you have kids, that's when it starts to get unreasonable. When it goes all the way to 2 a.m., it's just there's no chance. Because if you're a parent and you have kids, which a lot of the market is they're trying to go for, young alums that have young families, their kids could get up at 6 a.m. You're not going to stay up till 2 a.m. on the East Coast to watch a Pac-12 game you have no attachment to. Maybe they're only going for West Coast fans, but the majority of people in the United States live on the East Coast. It's fact, I think like 70% or something is on the Eastern time zone. I could be wrong with the number. I haven't looked at it for a while. But it's a ridiculous amount. So by only advertising your game or playing it on a smaller network at a later time, it just doesn't work out. They could have very easily started their game an hour later, and then you could have had every single person that watched that Florida game switch over to watch the ending of that Arizona-Hawaii game. But you lost all that. Because then, after that game's over, you turn it over, the other one's not even on yet. They're like doing pregame stuff. You're like, am I going to sit here and watch this? No. That's a no. So, I don't know what else they can do. Going into week 1. Actually, no. I want to make sure that I don't forget this. So, Penn State, there is a doctor, a team doctor that came out. I forgot to put this in the show notes, but team doctor has come out and said that he's going to try to sue Penn State for $50,000 because he was fired for being a whistleblower because James Franklin and other Penn State officials were having him return players from injury faster than what he thought in his professional opinion. So, Jeff, you're a big Penn State guy. What do you think of that allegation?
I actually wasn't aware of this, but if that's the case, Penn State's going to be in some serious issues here legally and financially. Anytime you're rushing a player back too quickly, that's a no-no, especially with the safety concerns in the NFL and college football. I understand it. Every player, everyone goes through their injuries. I went through mine. I always try to play quicker than I probably supposed to. But as a physician, you have a responsibility to do the right thing. And if the Penn State coaching staff, I don't know who's all involved or who exactly did it, if they were persuading or telling the physician to get those guys back on the field, that's a huge, huge violation that will probably lead to some sort of repercussions for Penn State.
And Coach, before I get your opinion, I'm going to read it because I feel like I butchered it. A former team doctor for Penn State is suing the university and football coach James Franklin, claiming Franklin pressured him about clearing injured players to return to the gridiron, and he is seeking more than $50,000 in damages from the university in his suit. And my first thought was $50,000 isn't a lot of money. So maybe they're only paying him per game, and he's getting a couple grand a game. Maybe that's his yearly total. But I would think that normally if you're fired, you try to get a couple years salary, if not lifetime earnings, in your suit. So it should have been around the $1 million I would have assumed for a team doctor, because doctors are doctors. So the fact that it was so low, it made me think that this could be credible, because why would he waste so much time suing in his own money if he were to lose for such a low amount?
Yeah.
Unless he's expecting them just to say, okay, yeah, we did it. Let's just write you a check and settle this out of court. And maybe that's his other thought. Maybe he just thought, oh, you know what? I don't have a case. I'm just going to go ahead and put a low ball offer. Maybe they'll just pay me and I'll get money. Maybe he needs 50 grand to buy a new car or something. And that's devil's advocate. So I could see both sides. So just because of that number, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't scream like, yo, this guy's trying to get a payday. But it also screams at me like, hey, is this guy just making this up to get some quick cash?
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
So
if you're going to make a claim like this, like when you first mentioned this a couple minutes ago, I was, knee-jerk reaction, like, holy crap, this is a big deal. For $50,000, he should have been, his lawsuit should be a lot higher than that. I would just guess based off of, how much doctors make, having that kind of status in that position with Penn State. That's really weird. I feel like that's kind of a quick cash grab. Maybe this isn't a credible claim, but I don't know. It'll be interesting how this plays out, because if there is any credibility to this, it's going to be a big issue for Penn State.
Yeah, unless my only thought was maybe he's suing for 10 years salary, and they pay him $5 grand a year, and depending on how, maybe you only do the home games, so it's like what, $700-800 a game. I don't know. I would assume doctors make more than that, but I have no idea, so I could be crazy on that. Maybe that is for a couple hours, you get a couple $100. That's a pretty good turnaround. So maybe that's the pay rate. But Coach, what are your thoughts on that?
To me, the bottom line in it is it's the physician's decision. Whether Franklin wants him to be cleared sooner or not, it doesn't matter. There's nothing that they can do. If the trainer or the doctor doesn't clear him, then you're not going to get cleared. Then that's just the way it is. I have some players that are injured right now, and do I want them practicing? Yes. Do I want them back to be able to play? Absolutely. But if they're not cleared, then there's nothing I can do about it. You just got to play with the hand you're dealt.
And the other thing that sticks out negatively, I'll jump in here, Jeff, is the doctor doesn't report to Franklin or anyone in the athletic department. So, like Matt's saying, even if he's pressured, James Franklin can't get him fired, legally speaking. So that's what struck me as possibly this could be just a cash grab. Throw a low amount out, hope that they just pay it off. Maybe he has a gambling debt. I have no idea. That's just speculation on my part.
Well, and 100%, the crazy thing with it is to throw a number like 50,000 out and then to have that circulating is crazy. You would think that if he was trying to just get paid off, that it would just be to the university, here's what I want, and it would just be a check cut. not be even remotely be in the press.
Because even if Penn State has to pay for his legal fees, I mean, even if he loses, this could end up costing him $30,000 just in lawyers alone to file the suit. So it's almost like you're taking a gamble to only get $20,000 more than what you could potentially spend. It's just not worth it. Normally, it's like a higher payoff. Because if they say, oh, you want 50? We'll give you 20. If they were like, hey, you want 5? We'll give you $2 million. That's the same ratio. That's a hell of a big difference. Instead of taking $20,000 because you set your initial ask so low. So I don't know. I don't know how to read it. It's weird. Jeff, do you have anything else to add? I know I cut you off.
No, it's okay. Just kind of going with Matt was saying. Matt put it perfectly as far as like how a coach should approach the situation. Unfortunately, at a large D1 program like Penn State, there's a lot more outside factors that come into play, different variables. Number one, money. Especially at the Division I level, it's all about wins. And if you could have a star player back one more game, or playing a huge rival, it makes a difference sometimes. So I think there's a lot more variables that come into play at the level Penn State plays at. I would have to say too, maybe since this is just another scenario, maybe this physician is just trying to try to be the whistleblower here. He's trying to do the right thing, as a physician, where he's not financially motivated. He's trying to do the right thing. He's trying to increase knowledge and increase player safety overall throughout the NCAA.
Could be. We'll see how far this goes. Because if at the very least, this could be something that the NCAA could look into for their dreaded lack of institutional control. I just don't think after they reneged on their initial Penn State sanctions last time that they would even come close to touching Penn State again. But Week 1 predictions. You guys have any upsets? I mean, it's usually cupcake week. So anyone do you have on upset alert? Matt?
Syracuse. I have Syracuse on upset alert. Playing Liberty this weekend. Hugh Freeze. I like the Flames.
Jeff, you have anyone?
Not really off the top of my head. I'm excited for the first week to start, but I haven't really been looking at my upsets for this weekend yet.
Yeah, there's it's usually like something big where the higher profile games that you're looking at, and I know Clemson is one that a lot of people are talking about. You play a Power 5 game right off the start. With the Florida-Miami game last weekend, you have them that was supposed to be a big matchup, but ended up being close, but it was kind of a dud in terms of the game itself. Because even if Miami upsets them, I don't think Florida's going to end up in the top 10. So this first weekend, I didn't see any game that really stood out to me. A lot of people are saying that some of the other games that you normally get, you just don't have that high-profile Ohio State versus Virginia Tech, where Ohio State loses to Virginia Tech the first week, then runs the table and wins the national championship. I don't know if we'll have anything like that, but I can't wait for it to start, and I'm excited because you have, of course, the dumbest decision. All the NFL preseason games end on Thursday when college football will really kick off this week. So it just doesn't make sense to me, and I hated that to begin with, but we will see. They have the Florida-Miami game slated as week 1. Another game, so Thursday, let me see if there's anyone. The big one, Clemson, Georgia Tech. Matt, who do you got?
Clemson.
Jeff?
Clemson, hands down.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying upset in that one, but I just don't think that happens. Let's see if there's any other big ones here. We got Wisconsin's traveling to South Florida, it looks like. And, of course, a Big Ten team would be traveling to Florida probably for recruiting reasons, and that would be the team that would get upset. Because that's a Big Ten thing. And then Wisconsin, just like Northwestern last year, lost to was it Akron or someone? They lost all their non-conference games, and then they crushed the Big Ten West.
Yeah.
Only to make the Big Ten championship game and lose to Ohio State. So that's a Big Ten one I would watch out for. let's see. Duke and Alabama. Matt?
Much as I'd love to see the upset, you got to roll Tide.
Jeff, what about you?
Yeah, I'm the same. I'd love to see the upset, but Bama's going to put it on Duke.
Yeah, that's not even going to be close. Northwestern Stanford, the Nerd Bowl on Fox. Jeff?
Yeah. I think that's a possible upset. I'd probably take Northwestern in that. I don't think Stanford's very good. I think that'll be a tough matchup. But the only good thing for Stanford, they're home. But I can see a Northwestern pulling that one out. There's a couple preseason polls. I don't know, like officially they're not in the top 25, but there are some of the polls where they had Northwestern near, 24, 25, getting some votes. So you see Northwestern knocking off Stanford.
Matt, what about you?
Go Trees.
Stanford. I don't know what to feel about the Stanford team because I don't know if they were living off Harbaugh's team mentality for the longest time and they're slowly starting to dip off, or if that was a big key to Harbaugh's success at Stanford. So I don't know. We'll see. I think Northwestern could win that one, though. So I'd keep an eye on them. We do have our other big matchup Saturday night, Oregon and Auburn. Matt?
War Eagle. Put it to them.
A lot of people are picking Oregon to run the table and make the playoffs. You're still taking Auburn.
The people that are picking Oregon to win it all are probably people from the Pac-12 network trying to keep it afloat.
Jeff, what's your pick?
I'm going to take Oregon over Auburn. I don't think they're going to run the table, make the college, playoffs, but I can see Oregon doing pretty well this year. They're a flashy, sexy pick. I know a few years ago when, you had Marcus Mariota, you had a high-powered offense. I don't know if that's the team they're going to have this year, but I'll take them over Auburn week 1.
I got Auburn in that one. I think that the tides have shifted from the Pac-12 where they were able to get a lot of big-time recruits. Now they're competing against Washington and Washington State. And with Chip Kelly now on UCLA and a couple other teams, I think David Shaw even at Stanford, I think everything's spread out. And I don't think Oregon's going to have a run like they had a decade ago. So I'm saying Auburn, and I think it could be a blowout. But we have 2 more of these Power 5 matchups. Georgia and Vanderbilt, Matt.
Is that a real game? Is that a real question?
What? You don't want James Franklin's old school Vanderbilt? You don't think they would have a winning chance against Georgia? It's at home. It's at Vanderbilt.
No.
Jeff, what about you?
I'll take Georgia by 4 touchdowns in that one.
If anyone, I think Georgia's going to win, but if any team were to lose at Vanderbilt opening weekend, that's such a Georgia thing to do that I wouldn't be surprised.
But maybe the Whistler will be there and give Vandy the edge.
Oh, man. I hate that guy. Last one, Notre Dame and Louisville. Matt?
Irish.
Jeff?
I'll take the Fighting Irish, but Louisville plays well in that game.
Do they, though?
I think they do.
They're a mess.
Notre Dame always starts the season off slow.
Yeah, but I think they have consistency this year. They got their quarterback back. I think they have almost everyone back.
What's that defense look
like? Petrino on a motorcycle. A wreck.
Yeah, but then they kick Petrino out again?
Yeah.
Their entire program is like a dumpster fire. I don't understand how they can go through so many sanctions. Like the last 5 years of Louisville is all sanctions and a Heisman. I mean, you could even count their basketball national championship. They had to take that down. People still have the tattoos, though, so you know it's real. And then they get the Heisman, and then the team just falls apart. Doesn't make any sense to me. I didn't see any other Power 5 matchups. Those were all the ranked ones anyway. So I just think it's going to be a slow weekend. I honestly don't think the Oregon-Auburn game is going to be a big game. I think Auburn's going to handle them because I think they have enough to control them, just like they did in, what was that? Was that a national championship game where they beat them? Is that who Cam Newton beat?
Yep.
I think it was. So yeah. I think you're going to see you're going to see the same thing. You're seeing a weaker Oregon team that has a head coach that hasn't won anything. I just don't think he's going to get the benefit of the doubt. He doesn't get it from me. I'm big on coaching. I don't think Oregon should be ranked that high. Let's go around the horn. Anything for the final bill, Matt?
Yeah, just excited to see Florida State back. See what Kendall Browse is going to do. They named Blackman the starter this week, so want to see what he can do.
And Jeff, you got anything?
Just excited for Pitt, Virginia. It's a big game for Pitt. We're going to know a lot about Pitt this year in that first game because, like you said, Virginia, there's a lot of hype around Virginia and the ACC Coastal. So I'm excited to see what Pitt puts on the field week 1 against Virginia.
Oh, yeah, we forgot to pick that one. I should have picked that one anyway.
I'm taking Pitt in that one. I'm a homer on that game, so I'll take Pitt against Virginia at home. That's the key there, at home.
Pitt has no home field advantage, Jeff. Have you been to a game there?
I've been to a few. You're definitely right, but at the same token, Virginia still got to travel to Pittsburgh, so I'll take that as the little home field advantage.
They hang up that banner that has all the national championships listed. That's not intimidating.
Oh, hey, that's 9 of them, though.
You got to have fans in the stadium.
Yeah, I mean, there might be 20,000 people there. We'll see.
I hope LSU gets a game day map because I'm going to bring that back in. I know we argued about LSU, but I even have more stats. I just didn't bring them in this week against how LSU's overrated as a program. So look forward to that. I hope we have a week where they're featured as a top team, so I can bring those in.
Go Tiger.
Who do you got for the Virginia Pitt game?
Virginia. I said they were going to win the Coastal.
I had the same pick. I think Virginia's going to crush them. I think that's whenever Narduzzi's hot seat starts to roll because you got to start recruiting at some point. He should have hired Wannstedt, like I said. Wannstedt's not doing anything. Get him in there as recruiting coordinator. I'm going to keep saying it until it happens or, until Pitt actually starts recruiting. But that's it for the show. I forgot to mention earlier, go to our website. I've been working on getting some extra YouTube videos up, so make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. I'm going to start doing some football breakdowns. As long as we're not banned for that, I don't know what the hell YouTube's rules are. But go to our website, southboundsports.com. If you like the show, make sure you tell your friends. Subscribe on all your podcast platforms because football season is starting officially this weekend. I don't count the Florida game as a real football game. So football season starts this weekend with some Big Ten action. And we're going to have the end of NFL preseason. So that's coming up next week. So get your friends subscribed. Support the show by shopping on Amazon if you click on our link on our website. And we'll be back next week. So thanks for listening. And we will see you next week.